Hello everybody, and welcome to the third entry of my video series, where I go through the different iterations of the Scooby-Doo cartoon series and explain why my 10 favorite episodes are my 10 favorite episodes. This time, I'll be covering the 1976-1978 series entitled The Scooby-Doo Show. This show brought back the format of the original series, while adding in new monsters, mysteries, and even members of the gang in some episodes. This new member of the gang that I'm referring to is Scooby-Doo, Scooby-Doo's dim-witted cousin hailing from the south. Let's get into the top 10. Number 10 is What a Shocking Ghost. This episode's greatest strength is its iconic monster. The 10,000-volt ghost is one of my personal favorite Scooby-Doo monsters because of its great design and ability to melt metal with the power of its electricity. This ghost feels even more threatening because of this ability, as all it has to do is touch someone to seriously harm or even kill them. The rest of the episode is connected to the monster well because of the energy crisis that the town is experiencing. In addition, the origin story for how the ghost came about always stuck in my mind, even though I only watched the episodes once or twice as a kid. Overall, this episode's good, but is only memorable enough to be in the top 10 because of the 10,000-volt ghost. Number 9 is Scooby-Doo, Where's the Crew? This episode's strength comes from its location. The Mystery Incorporated crew is on board the Sea Prowler, a ship being used by a famous oceanographer. But when he's kidnapped by ghosts that board the ship and the rest of the crew flees in a lifeboat, the gang is left to deal with the ghosts all alone. The ghosts themselves are pretty neat. I always love the aesthetic when the show has glowing ghosts, but as I said earlier, it's the setting and situation that make up the memorable moments in this episode. The only weakness in this episode is the motivation of the ghosts. It isn't very original for a Scooby-Doo episode set in the ocean. Despite this minor complaint, it's a very good episode that is simply not quite as good as the episodes above. Number 8 is the Chiller Diller movie thriller. This episode does a great job of keeping the gang moving from one place to another. I especially liked the parts on the train. It felt like the Murder on the Orient Express when the gang was chasing the ghost of Milo Booth around the train. I also liked how the gang weren't just trying to solve the mystery, they are also trying to protect Scooby's actor's cousin, Scooby-Doo, from being taken by the ghost. It's a good episode that is unfortunately brought down by the very weird scenes in which Scooby-Doo and Scooby-Dum get kisses from Scooby-Doo. I wouldn't really care for them under normal circumstances, but the fact that they're all cousins just ruins it for me. If it wasn't for that and the mediocre villain, this episode's fast pace and fun locations would have pushed it up a lot higher on my list. Number 7 is Jeepers, It's the Jaguaro. The episode concept of the gang getting stuck in the Brazilian jungle when their plane must make an emergency landing isn't the most unique for the series, but it's what lurks in the jungle that makes this episode one of the best. The Jaguaro is a creature with the body of a gorilla and the head of a saber-toothed tiger. It seems like a bit of an odd design, but its distinct cry makes it much more fearsome. It also blends perfectly into the vibrant jungle, where it feels like it's right at home. The mystery is not to be forgotten too. While the plan is a little elaborate, as many of the Scooby-Doo villain plans are, I actually incorrectly guessed who the Jaguaro was, because the episode takes advantage of one of the common themes with Scooby-Doo culprits. I won't spoil so that you can be pleasantly surprised as well if you haven't seen the episode. Nevertheless, when I am surprised by a Scooby-Doo episode's villain, I instantly gain more respect for that episode, and when it's already a strong episode like this one, it's sure to make my top 10. Number 6 is The Ghost of the Bad Humor Man. This might be the best episode name in all of Scooby-Doo. It doesn't make any sense, considering that although the episode takes place inside the Happy Humor ice cream factory, I have no idea who the Bad Humor Man would be. The ghosts haunting the factory have the exact same designs as the Phantom Shadows from the original Scooby-Doo series episode, A Night of Fright is No Delight, but with one key difference. They are the colors of the 3 ice cream flavors, vanilla, chocolate, and strawberry. Although the ghosts aren't creatively designed, they're still fairly memorable. The ice cream factory is also a fun location for the mystery, although the gags were hit or miss for me. I did love when Shaggy accidentally got zipped inside a brown coat, making everybody think that he was the chocolate phantom, including the strawberry phantom. The culprits themselves were pretty forgettable, but I did like their plan. This episode places above Jeepers, It's the Jaguaro because I liked the humor in the episode more. This is probably the most fun that I've had with an episode on the top 10. Number 5 is A Frightened Hound Meets Demons Underground. The opening scene for this episode is one of my favorites from the Scooby-Doo show. It provides a good demonstration of the demon's power while also tying in to its supposed origin. Speaking of that, the origin story behind the demon is strong. It feels like a legitimate urban legend. This legend is explored more thoroughly when the gang explores the underground city where the demons supposedly come from. Unfortunately, I like the idea for the underground city better than the execution. The design for the demons isn't bad, but it's certainly not one of the best from the series. Overall, the strong connection of the origin of the demons makes this episode very good, but I don't love enough of it for it to be great. Number 4 is The High-Rise Hair Raiser. I know I ranked this episode higher than most, but after watching 2 long seasons of the new Scooby-Doo movies for my last video, this episode was such a breath of fresh air. The reason why I enjoyed the episode so much was because of how different its structure felt from a regular episode. First of all, Shaggy, Scooby, and Fred actually get a job. A job? I've never heard of such nonsense from a Scooby-Doo episode. Better yet, the job location and the location of this episode's villain is on the frame of an apartment being built. This location is so memorable for me, not just because it's a totally different location from a typical episode, but also because of the extreme danger that comes from running from a monster that chases you almost 100 feet in the air on a thin metal beam. Of course you know nothing bad will happen because it's Scooby-Doo, but the threat still remains. The rest of the mystery is strong as well. The gang actually goes to different locations to try and figure out the mystery, which keeps things moving. The Spectre of Ebenezer Crab is a good villain, not one of the best, but not one of the worst either. I just don't see how people don't rank this episode higher. Let me know your opinions in the comments. Number 3 is Make a Beeline Away from That Feline. My top 3 episodes are the absolute top tier Scooby-Doo show episodes in my opinion. The worst one of these 3 being Make a Beeline Away from That Feline. It has an intriguing premise for a mystery. A woman who is mysteriously delivered a cat medallion fears that it may be causing her to turn into a literal cat burglar while she sleeps. The design of the cat creature is kind of weird, but it isn't a terrible monster. The episode's biggest strength is how well it uses the cityscape setting. It's rare for a Scooby-Doo episode to take place around a city like this one, but it's great to see that when it is done, it's done right. The pink glass elevator in the apartment building is foreshadowed as an important location early in the episode, and I love the payoff at the end of the episode, where Scooby battles the cat creature inside the elevator. A truly great episode with few detractors. Number 2 is Vampire Bats and Scaredydats. I was debating putting this episode at number 1, but I decided against it because it didn't sit right with me for it to be my favorite episode of the entire series. Nevertheless, it's still an amazing episode for it to be placed so high on my list. A lot of things about this episode are good. The hotel setting, the vampire monster design, and the mystery are all fine. What makes this episode one of the elite ones is the darker tone it has. Gramps the Vamp has a very spooky, maniacal laugh, and the scene with the gang's friend Lisa is turned into a vampire is genuinely surprising and puts you off balance. The culprit is ridiculously easy to guess, but this episode does a great job of setting a different tone, so it stands above almost every episode of the Scooby-Doo show. Before I give my top pick, here are a few quick honorable mentions. The Tar Monster, one of the series' best monsters, is unfortunately put in an episode with a unique but uninteresting location and a semi-compelling mystery. A Menace in Venice. This episode takes place in a great city for a Scooby-Doo mystery, but it doesn't set itself apart as well from the other episodes in the series, in part due to a boring monster backstory and bland suspects. The gruesome game of the Gator Ghoul, another classic monster mixed with a good mystery, is held back a little by the failure to incorporate the Gator Ghoul into the swamp setting. A Scary Night with a Snow Beast Fright. I loved how the audience's point of view was played with this in this episode, with an exciting monster, but unfortunately the snowy setting didn't stand out at all from the other snowy locations in Scooby-Doo episodes. And finally, The Spirits of 76. The premise of the gang getting lost in the museum is very fun, and the mystery is one of the best from the series. I just didn't quite enjoy it enough for it to make it in the top 10, but it was very, very close. And now, number 1 is The Creepy Cruise. This is not far and away my favorite episode of the Scooby-Doo show, like the number 1 episode of the other Scooby-Doo series that I ranked. This episode just stuck in my mind a little bit more than the other episodes that I loved from this series. The future monster stands out because of its odd insect-like design and unique coloring. The idea that a professor accidentally created a creature existing 5,000 years in the future with a time machine that he created is not only an extremely cool monster origin, it was also executed perfectly. The cruise ship is an okay setting, but without spoiling, the ending reveal is unquestionably the best of the series. This is because not only is it a tricky episode to predict the culprit, but the plan that the person behind the monster has is actually a great plan that almost works. For these reasons, I rank The Creepy Cruise my favorite episode of the Scooby-Doo show. Thank you for watching the video. I'll be continuing this series of ranking videos with Scooby's All-Star Laugh Olympics in the next video. And if this is the sort of content you're interested in, then be sure to subscribe to see more of it. Comment down below your rankings of the Scooby-Doo show, and I'll see you in the next video.